When it comes to financing new shows, I think we all know Netflix has its stubborn model of throwing everything at the wall, seeing what sticks, and then still cancelling it half the time anyway. To Netflix's credit though, they don't lack ambition with some of the stuff that they finance. Sometimes it does strike me as an obvious mistake. Why would you throw so much money at Red Notice or The Grey Man? Why? Even if there is always going to be an audience for those kind of films. Netflix are familiar with having big flops, and very recently they've poured a ton of money and ambition into something that an insider reports that they hoped would be a huge worldwide success. I am, of course, talking about Netflix's reality show competition, Celebrity Bear Hunt.
It's gonna be formidable prey.
Yeah. Have you heard of it? Is anyone talking about it? Maybe if you're British you do, because it has performed pretty well here, but globally, no. Netflix are supposed to be very disappointed with its viewing figures. Not that they've been published, so it is a bit vague to talk about. However, it is kind of amusing, because this show was never going to be a global success, designed the way it has been. The fact this was going to be a flop should have been painfully obvious, despite the fact there is potential in this for something good, so we're going to talk about that. What the hell is the show Celebrity Bear Hunt, and why has it gone so very wrong for Netflix? So, to explain the show, well-known survivalist man Bear Grylls takes a bunch of celebrities to an area in Costa Rica and teaches them survivalist stuff. They all have to live together, complete challenges during the day, and then those who perform worst get put into the bear pit. Yeah, they spend a lot of time bigging up how scary the bear pit is. It's basically a giant playground of wilderness where you have to avoid Bear Grylls capturing you for an hour, either by hiding or trying to find an escape route. There's various traps all over the place. Bear sneaks about like a hunter tracking prey and picks them off one by one. Of those who get caught, one is eliminated from the show. Rinse and repeat each day until you've got a final winner. I think there is some potential in this show. I think there are moments where the stealth is engaging and fairly tense. We know a lot of survivalist competitions already exist and do pretty well. They don't tend to be my thing, but there's obviously a market, and I think the USP for this one is that the contestants are deliberately not supposed to be good at this stuff.
The survival I've had to do is like survive a stressful meeting. So I want to learn. I genuinely want to learn.
This isn't some hard-lined, gritty competition of backstabbing. It's basically people who want to come and learn stuff from Bear Grylls. He is positioned a little bit like their teacher. It can have surprisingly wholesome moments, like even when the contestants do break down into big arguments, the show takes the time to showcase them resolving things amicably and growing from it. And there's decent shades of comedy to be found in people who aren't good at this stuff, getting everything wrong, and then Bear picking them up on it.
8 seconds. What do I do? What do I do?
What is he doing? Surely he can see this trap has already been sprung.
Don't know.
And so, what is so bad about this show? What's so very wrong? Well, two things, essentially. One is the strange choice of structure, and the other is the way they edit this show that does just completely baffle me at times. Let's start with the structure and the obvious point first.
I really don't want to go home. I really want to push myself and challenge myself, so I'm going to fight for my...
51% off World Anvil!
I'm dying to get in there and dying to get out.
Oh, you better believe it's World Anvil. They are sponsoring this video, they are offering you 51% off, and they are an online tool for building worlds, you may have guessed. But also creating characters, designing and managing campaigns for all sorts of different games. My best friend uses it for D&D, but there's lots of other games. You can use it for planning your stories, writing your stories, working on all sorts of creative projects. For me, it is my novel. I need a tool like this, otherwise I am far too chaotic. We're moving flat soon, and I literally have 6 cardboard boxes full of random sheets of A4 paper I've written old ideas on. Pre-World Anviled me was a nightmare. So with something like this, not only can I keep everything organised, keep it all in one place, be able to easily edit things, but I can create timelines, I can create hyperlinks branching off specific characters or articles or a billion other things that just make it so much easier to find stuff. Planning things can be hard, especially when there's so so much to do, but having all of these tools to help visualize it, to help split everything down into specific points, articles one at a time, it helps immensely. I'm not going to show you because it's a secret, but I've created different bio pages for all of the characters in my world, even the minor ones, which house they live in, what their job is, who they're friends with, who they hate, what different beliefs they have or opinions about events that go on in the book, or whatever. So, World Anvil is great. I hope you can hear my passion, and if you desire, if you crave. If you call to the heavens for a 51% discount, then use the code TREE, or click the link in the description, or the pinned comment, or if you just want to try out the free version, then go for that. You know, there's no time limit on it. Test it out for as long as you want. World Anvil. Yeah, so the obvious point is the question, who is hosting this show? It's called Celebrity Bear Hunt. It's people being hunted by Bear Grylls, people being taught stuff by Bear Grylls, people being judged on their performances by Bear Grylls, but instead it's hosted by Holly Willoughby? Huh? You know, Holly Willoughby, who presented morning television in the UK. Holly Willoughby, who I believe is friends with Bear Grylls, but has nothing in her character or her previous work that suggests anything at all to do with a survivalist competition in Costa Rica. Why is she here? There's something just so jarring about cutting from these celebrities looking really rough and worn out from the challenges, sometimes getting injured or flat out exhausted, and then going to this monologue from Holly Willoughby walking across a beach looking like she's presenting A Place in the Sun or Love Island or something. You know, she's not doing anything wrong in herself. She's just not the right vibe for this show. Made worse because she doesn't have the knowledge to judge the contestants or to offer advice, barely even to commentate on their performances half the time. Therefore, the moments when she could be doing something, they still need to have Bear in there next to her because he's the one who can offer the insight. So Holly just ends up standing there awkwardly with nothing to do. She's not a comedian, so she can't chip in much humour either. Sometimes her presence just inevitably kills the drama of a moment.
Oh, of course.
There he is.
And there he is. You could have got in the car with me this morning. What's room?
This is the thing that apparently has been blamed for the failure of the show. I suppose she has been a successful enough scapegoat that Netflix have decided to renew this show for a second season without her. But she's not the total problem. I think even here, more than Holly herself, the problem is the decision not to structure the entire show around Bear Grylls himself. Especially when you want to hook people. Episode 1 should absolutely have kicked off with Bear Grylls talking, saying, "I am Bear Grylls. This is what I do, this is the stuff I've done in the past. Now I'm bringing these people to here because I want to see if ordinary pampered celebrities can survive." That kind of thing should be the hook to get people engaged, but as I say, the problems go deeper even than that. The contest itself is structured in a really weird way. For example, what are they competing for? Obviously it's not cash prize, and there's no mention of money for charity, but there's also no mention of a trophy or anything like that. Half the time it's not even clear if this show will end with a winner, if that's what we're working towards. It took me 3 episodes to fully understand the rules of this competition, and even then, the final prize came out of nowhere at the very end of this show when I'd already won, and they go, "Okay, you win, therefore you can have this rope as a prize." Rope. Okay? So how the elimination itself works is similarly incomprehensible to begin with. Episode 1, for the sake of I think immediate action, kicks off by having the contestants here, and they are straight into a challenge to reach base camp. Bear Grylls is going to be hunting them along the way while they try to get to base camp, and if they're caught, they might go into the dreaded bear pit. Might. Okay, so what happens then? Well, if they go to the bear pit, they then have to survive being hunted by Bear Grylls, and if they get caught, they might be eliminated from the show. So, kind of the same thing again. Bear is going to be hunting them, and if they get caught, Bear is going to be hunting them. And it's using the word might a lot, a chance of being eliminated, the possibility, so that doesn't sound the most high stakes. What determines whether they are or not? We don't know these things. As we later discover in episode 2, Bear basically talks to them. He says, "I caught you 3 in the bear pit. Only one of you is going to go based on who I think did the worst, so I pick you. Goodbye." Hopefully you can generally see the point I'm making here, but even that decision has structural problems in itself. For one, it's quite anticlimactic to go through all of this with the bear pit and the challenges and getting caught to just still end up with the same old judge's decision type thing. But worse is the fact Bear has no one to discuss the decision with. So often in these kind of shows, they use more than one judge for this exact reason, so that they can spitball their thoughts for the sake of the audience, to clue us into what we should be thinking about their performances too, to help us understand how well people are doing. Even in shows where there is one clear judge, like The Apprentice, they still have moments where he turns to his mates and goes, "What do you think of them?" Without that, these moments always just feel like Bear quickly thinking stuff in his head and then going, I don't know, you can leave, I guess. And then often it feels like the wrong decision based on what we see as an audience. Also, he hasn't had an objective view of how they've all performed because he was in the bear pit himself at the time hunting them. He will have missed things one contestant did while he was chasing another. Presumably they've relayed the footage to him afterwards, but we don't know that. He could really do with like some subordinate hunters who can feed back information and bounce ideas with him. None of this stuff sounds particularly bad in itself, I know, but what it all does contribute to is a show that's not very easy to follow, especially to begin with. It's not that you don't understand what's happening, it's that you don't get what the sense of direction is. You don't fully feel clued into where the show is going. Episode 1 feels genuinely incoherent at times, and when you're making a reality show, the kind of show people just stick on and loll their heads for easy viewing, you need it to be easy to follow. You can have all manner of chaotic twists and turns, but provided there is still a basic structure that people can understand very easily from the get-go. What I would do, if I'm just going to chuck out an example solution, is have two subordinate hunters given dumb names like Eagle and Wolf to go alongside Bear. They do the first challenge of hunting the contestants on the way to base camp instead of Bear. I think save Bear, save the bear pit as a whole until episode 2. Make that feel like more of a big event on its own, more build up. Then have 5 or 10 extra contestants at the start of this, and anyone caught on the way to base camp is just immediately eliminated. They're gone. Much higher stakes that way. Those who do get to base camp have a day to be taught things by Bear, things they might need, him then judging them based on how well they do at this, and the next episodes, the ones who do worst, go into the bear pit, with the worrying revelation it won't be Eagle and Wolf chasing them this time, it will be him, Bear Grylls himself. That makes it feel like more of a kind of boss battle. And thirdly, if you don't want to make more use of 2 other subordinate hunters, I think the only other way to do this is have a kind of point scoring system, where whoever goes into the bear pit is just the 4 players with the lowest overall points at the end of the day. That's much simpler and cleaner. And then whoever has the lowest points out of those who get caught in the bear pit gets eliminated too. You get points for completing challenges during the day, and if you successfully escape the bear pit, you get extra points for that, which would help the lowest scoring contestants catch up with the other ones, though at the risk of being eliminated. That would be clearer, it also feels much fairer, the stakes are increased, it's much more tense. Yes, can we talk about editing though? That's the most baffling part of this. It's worth stating that none of the celebrities on this show have much appeal at all. Most of them are very UK and Ireland centred, so why the hell would you expect worldwide appeal with this show? Who here is bringing star power? I don't think they should have gone for celebrities with this show, but if they did, they should have had some that are spread out with a more wider appeal across the rest of the world. I think the only other reason other than star power to have celebrities is the potential for humour, the potential to go, let's frame this show to exaggerate the idea of pampered celebrities. Have a little bit of a joke at their expense. How bad are they in a survivalist environment? And you do feel like they almost have that with Joe Thomas. Someone who does have certain moments where he is comically bad and he is secure enough to poke fun at himself about that too. That works, but most of the time you don't get that. And even when you still could, the editing of the show doesn't hone in on it much. Take this moment where they're talking about the big challenge of climbing a tree, and then you cut to the tree and it's this. Edited differently, that could almost be like a little moment from something like The Office, but they go for epic music, and they're trying to build tension for the bear pit ahead right now, which just feels like the wrong choice. But fine, okay, deliberately exaggerating their failings wouldn't appeal to me much for humour anyway. I don't think it would be that successful, so what about the tension in this show? Maybe that's the focus. Sometimes the editing works perfectly for the tension. The sound quiets, the camera stills, you can sense this person is under threat. Or you get touches like this to kick off the bear pit.
Okay.
The hell is that noise?
But then other times they just jarringly cut from what's supposed to be a tense moment to something immediately triumphant without any build or development between the two. Even in reality shows, editing is all about rhythm, building to climactic moments, dropping it away again. You can't just cut from one guy getting caught and yelling to his team to light the flare to get going quick, and the next shot is them going, oh okay, lighting the flare, and cue triumphant music like they've already won.
Get in the helicopter!
Oh my God. He's caught. You ready? 1, 2, 3. We will always be grateful to Lawrence for shouting, "Get on the helicopter."
You see how jarring that feels? Even if it would be somewhat manufactured, and even if I don't personally tend to like that, there is a reason editing might manufacture more tension here. Might keep the tense music, have the shot of him yelling for them to get going, and then cut to shots of Bear hurrying in their direction while they pull the flare. Cut between Bear moving towards them and the helicopter slowly approaching, which one's gonna get there first, then the shot of them boarding it with triumph. That's just more coherent. And when this entire sequence of the base camp challenge has lots of tiny incoherent moments like this one, they do all add up. It does make everything feel very wayward. Worst of all, they're using this challenge to try and introduce us to all of the contestants, so we keep cutting away from supposedly tense moments for them to voice over about why they wanted to go on this show, or to joke about how inexperienced they are. This isn't the time for the interviews. Occasionally they're even interviewing them during the challenge, like they're under zero urgency at all. No, save that stuff before or after this challenge, not during. You're already cutting between several groups of people across this long expanse. All of that stuff is a lot to cut between, so don't add even more things to confuse the sequence. And I haven't even mentioned the fact all the supposedly stealthy bear pit scenes still clearly have a camera crew following everyone around. When they're supposed to be hiding, are they ever that hidden? We might lose some of the scope, but I genuinely think the bear pit would be far more tense if they just set up some overhead drone shots, a few pre-positioned cameras across the area, got rid of the camera crew following them, and focused mostly on the contestants' own body cams. I think what you would lose in scope, you can gain in tension, and I think you can make up for the lack of scope with clearer, more frequent shots of the map to pinpoint where people are. The maps we are shown rarely give any scope. I like this show, I am kind of charmed by it, but there are lots of kinks to iron out beyond just removing Holly Willoughby, and I find that stuff quite interesting. So, what's the lesson? Yeah, all competitions need a very clear structure to follow so that it can keep some of the madness more grounded, and even reality TV needs to find narrative and rhythm in how it's edited. Which again, doesn't necessarily mean you need to manufacture everything. This long, still realistic shot here is probably the most tense moment of the episode. Yeah, this is a much simpler video while I continue to work on a massive sequel to my last massive video, so I hope this little thing is interesting enough. Anyway, like the video, subscribe, comment, maybe even support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee, but otherwise, hopefully see you next time. And as ever, a special thank you goes to Flying Spider, Grace, Kellyanne Davidson, Luke Orr, Michael Gallagher, Chad Bramwell and Joshua C. Follier. Thank you.